This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 181. Models Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where we're talking about painting, modeling, and working experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 YouTube videos a week. Oh, could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, Games Workshop showed off the new models, the new exclusive models available if you happen to join the Warhammer subscription service, and I got a ton of painting done. But first, have you ever needed a website? Figured it should probably be Square, but you have no idea where to go from there? Well, today's sponsor, Squarespace, can help with that. Squarespace allows anyone to break into website design with easy-to-use features like the new guided design system, Squarespace Blueprint. Choose from a professionally curated selection of styling options to build a unique online presence from the ground up. Squarespace makes it easy to launch your website and get discovered fast with integrated optimized SEO tools, so you show up more often to more people and grow the way you want. Or your own online storefront. Whether your services are physical, digital, or service-based, selling your wares has never been easier with Squarespace's seamless checkout tools. With a Squarespace website, your customers can use whatever payment system they prefer, whether it's credit cards, PayPal, Apple Pay, Afterpay, or ClearPay. Selling your unique wares has never been easier. Squarespace offers a free trial for you to dip your feet into and test the waters, and ready to dive in headfirst, you can go to squarespace.com/EonsOfBattle or follow the link in the description below to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. The Warhammer Plus paid subscription service has been on a heck of a roller coaster ride. I've seen like little clips, which is dumb because I actually have the service, but I've seen clips of the animations. The newer ones are looking pretty darn good. I have not been watching them. Because I watch YouTube. I watch YouTube like exclusively. I never open the Warhammer TV app, which makes me sign in every single time. It might be like my browser, but I think it might also be the app that's messing it up. Warhammer Plus is a really weird product. It's kind of 2 products in one that are very different and for very different people. One of them is the shows / a little bit of the print media / the shows. And I guess you get a free model, or you get a free model that you pay for once a year. And then the other side of it is more features in the Army Builder app, that's the most annoying part, because the Games Workshop app, not bad. It does the job, it works. It's got its own eccentricities, but like I like it more than like Battle Scribe. Like it's not bad, but the other one, the actual content, it's some of it is very good. Some of it is very, and I don't know. It's just, I think Games Workshop should probably just shut it down. I made a video forever ago, and they a little bit after they first launched the platform. I think there's some good stuff on there, but they should just put it on YouTube. And I know that comes with its own problems, and then Google gets a big old cut, but maybe they get a big old cut because their thing works so well, as opposed to the subscription service. And then why bundle it? Why bundle it with the Army Builder? It seems really silly that I have to pay for a streaming service so that I can put my code that I've got with my codex into the app so that I can have more features on the Army Builder. It's just a weird way to have all the features. But speaking of features, the real feature that brought me to Warhammer Plus in the first place was the limited edition miniatures. They've had some really cool ones over the years. The first one was probably the best one they've ever made, which was the Vindikar assassin poking his little barrel out of a Sister of Battle statue. It was amazing. Also, I just finished the novel Kingbreaker or Kingmaker. It's either Kingbreaker or Kingmaker. But in that book, the audiobook, it says Vindikare assassins, and it says that throughout the entire book. Is that just completely wrong? Like an actual book from Games Workshop? Because I've never heard anybody else say Vindikare. Everyone says Vindikar. Anyway, so I finished that book, and I found out that I might be saying Vindikar wrong this entire time. But that one was really, really cool. And they've had some other ones. Usually every single year they have one model that's like, hell yeah. And then another model that's like, sure, it's an alternative sculpt to a model that exists in the current range. And this year is a little bit no exception. This might be the weirdest year yet. The mysterious Inquisitor Ostromandius hails from the Ordo Hereticus, an uncompromising servant of the Emperor tasked with expunging cultists and insurgents who seek to bring the Imperium down from within. He's not a bad Inquisitor. I like that all Inquisitors are like completely unique, and it does make a lot of sense that they would have their own kind of Baroque armor and their own eccentricities about them, but like the model, like 50% of it I really, really like, and then 50% of it I really, really don't. It's like the Star Wars prequels. There's just something not quite right when you look at it all together. I think it's his little tiny wrists and little tiny ankles that make him feel a little bit less powerful and less commanding. But there's other stuff I really like. I like his sword, which has the 3 bars that show off like the 3 different ordos of the Inquisition. I like his little shoulder pads that have like the fur draped over them. I like his little hand that he's got in the little thingy. Like there's like this little, Space Marines have this too. It's a little casket that dangles off of his belt and it's got a hand. I don't know. I like to think that it's a real hand in there. Like that's just like a buddy of his, or maybe because he's missing a hand, he has a robot hand. Is that the right hand? It is. Okay, so he's wearing his own hand on his belt that has now been replaced with a robotic hand. That's a lovely little detail. But look at his tiny little ankles. It does not look like he could take a fall. He's not bad. And then the weird thing is over his shoulder, he's got a little servitor buddy, which is one of the weirdest looking things Games Workshop has made in a while. Look at that guy. He's got dinosaur legs and a dinosaur head. His head kind of looks like a Parasaurolophus's head, if anybody remembers that dinosaur. I guess a little bit xenomorph head too from the Aliens movies. He's weird, and I think he's weird in a good way, but I don't think they took the weirdness far enough. So this guy is essentially his boombox. It's his Alexa that follows him around and just blasts like prayers and speeches and whatever the Inquisitor is saying. But I don't necessarily read that in the design. His head has like a little like stand-up comedy mic in front of his mouth, and then he's kind of got the same thing on his hand, but it doesn't read hard enough that those are speakers. And then why does he have like backwards chicken legs? Because backwards chicken legs usually mean like this thing can really move. I'm thinking like the Ruststalkers from the Adeptus Mechanicus. Like those guys look like they can run at 100 miles an hour. They look incredibly imposing. But I mean, this guy probably just needs to waddle around next to the Inquisitor. He doesn't need super cool legs. He doesn't need Roadrunner legs. And so I feel like that design is conflicting with he's a servitor, which is a person turned into a speaker, a boombox. He's okay. I think I'll probably get this model. And I think what I would do with him is chop both the arms off and then just attach giant speakers to the sides of him. And I think that would help a lot. That would also help with the robot legs, because if he's carrying like 100 or 200 pounds of audio equipment, he would need some pretty strong robot legs, and it would help emphasize the design. Where this guy, he's just kind of weird. Like it almost makes me think, I always wonder how Games Workshop comes into these limited edition sculpts. Do they say, years in advance, do they just say if somebody's new to the sculpting team, or maybe if somebody has some downtime, they're like, make me something inquisitorial and limited edition. And then they're just able to run wild? Or do they take maybe ideas that never ended up going all the way to being a full kit, and they put it back on the desk and they're like, why don't we finish this for this application right now, and then we'll have the model? Cause yeah, he doesn't seem quite right, but he seems like, remember when 30K was getting, when 30K was getting its new edition and they were coming out with the new types of assassins. There was like the Poisoner and the Stabber, and there was another one. That's kind of what this guy reminds me of, because he doesn't look like a servitor. Servitors don't wear like the skin tight black suits, but he is wearing it seemingly. At least it looks like he is. So I wonder if this is a repurposed sculpt from somewhere else. I don't know. It's very bizarre. I like that it's bizarre, and I think it's a very interesting model, but it's not all coming together for me yet. But speaking of it all coming together, every year they do one thing set in the world of Warhammer 40K and one thing set in the world of Age of Sigmar. And for Age of Sigmar, we got a couple of dudes. And that's as specific as I can be, because I know nothing about the Cities of Sigmar. These look exactly like Cities of Sigmar people. They've got Cities of Sigmar weapons, and Cities of Sigmar absolutely unbelievably dripping with the tiniest of details. I'm sure Cities of Sigmar players are probably eating this up. I like the one guy who looks very perturbed, holding a bottle of shampoo or a bottle of something or other, and then a portly fella with a big old long gun and a pistol. They're pretty good. They seem like Cities of Sigmar. I got to see the Cities of Sigmar play a little bit in a recent, very friendly Spearhead tournament, and they do seem like they're just Imperial Guard, but in Age of Sigmar. They have some reinforcement abilities. They have like a guy on a horse who commands the whole army, which makes a lot of sense in Age of Sigmar. But in 40k, that's true too, because Lord Solar Leontis, better known as Horse Lord or Horsey Lord, leads basically as an auto-include for Imperial Guard lists, because boy, does he make things a lot better. He can just hand out like +1 ballistic skill to 3 things every single turn without fail. It is kind of frustrating. But yeah, these Cities of Sigmar guys are neat. They don't really get me super interested in Cities of Sigmar. I liked the old Cities of Sigmar, not enough to buy it, but I did kind of like the just historical figures with like the silly costumes and like the knightly regalia. I did like that a little bit more than these guys. I think my problem with these guys is they're almost like medieval tactical. Like have you ever seen like a really cool gun and then they just ruin it with like a million tack rails and scopes and weird little thingies? I feel like that's these guys. Like they have some cool medieval armor, but then they've just got too much junk thrown on top of them. If they could minimize like half of it, or maybe 60 or 70% of it, I think they would actually get down to a pretty slick, interesting little medieval peasanty guys. But as they are, every single one looks like the epic hero on the front of a novel. But yeah, it's not my thing. But also that's just the hard part about Age of Sigmar or any of these games really, regular folks are gonna be exactly right for a certain number of gamers. But in a world where I can play ogres, or time-traveling dinosaurs, or vampires, or undead guys who make themselves out of the bones of other undead guys. Like when stuff like that is floating around as an option for me to play it, it's gonna pull me away from normal dudes. They're fine. They're perfectly fine. But you know what else is perfectly fine? That's right, our website. EonsOfBattle.com is the place to find our merch, like the Eons of Battle dice. I have been rolling the heck out of these, and I can say from experience the J dice are rolling pretty hot lately. In addition to our dice, the very best way to support us is with a membership. Each month, members will get 1 credit that they can spend on the new terrain that we've come out with that month, or use it on any previous terrain set we have ever made. For the month of September, we here at Eons of Battle are proud to announce the Whimsical Cottages. Fantasy buildings perfect for any game with a ye olde flair. Move your models around the quaint homes, the roomy houses, or set up shop with the tavern. With this terrain, you can make an entire town complete with pumpkins, giant mushrooms, and trees to really fill out a game board. And speaking of filling out a game board, I painted that game board this week, and it turned out so good. And the whole idea of the terrain came from how much I've been enjoying a little game called Moonstone. Moonstone from Goblin King Games is a whimsical skirmish game, and in my opinion, it is the best kind of skirmish game. It actually reminds me a lot of a game called X-Wing. X-Wing is a little bit of a dead game right now, but back in 2015, it was the bee's knees. It was like the best miniature war game of all time. And what the reason that X-Wing, which looks very different than Moonstone, the reason that they feel similar is because of the way you interact with the game, because the rules are there. The bones that you actually play with are really, really interesting and really fun and really easy. But the depth comes from the list building, because every single unit is essentially a character with its own unique abilities and rules that interact with each other and interact with the simple rules of the game. And so, in X-Wing, that was like, I can bring Howl the Runner, the TIE Fighter Commander, and I can bring some other Imperial guy. I don't remember exactly what Sean used against me, but he would always win. And that'll probably happen in Moonstone. This weekend, I almost got the Mortician painted up. I've been having a ton of fun with the Moonstone minis because number one, they're absolutely lovely, cast in lovely resin. And since every single character is unique, I feel like I feel like it's really easy to sink a lot of my time into painting one character because this is the Mortician. there's not Mortician and then a bunch of goons or a 10-man squad. It's just him. And so I actually hand sculpted like a cobblestone base for him. I pinned his little bird friend to his shoulder, and I really went all out trying to paint this guy. And like he's just a little goblin. He's just a little fella with some Mortician's clothes on. But what makes him so much fun is the rules. A Moonstone crew is 6 miniatures, and the Mortician makes a wonderful addition to the Goblin team because he is the team's healer. He can heal guys nearby, but more importantly, he can resurrect guys from the dead. And they come back with half health remaining, which is pretty darn good, and they can activate that turn, which is also very, very good. And he pairs amazingly with another little gobbo named Joby. Everybody loves Joby. Joby might be my favorite miniature in the game so far. I play the fairy faction, but I bought this as like my loner / second team, and Joby is so much fun. Number one, he's like a little actor fella. He's doing a very like stage death, clutching his heart, sticking his tongue out, and he's gonna like fall backwards. And the reason for that is because this guy's job is to die. But in the lore of the world, I think he's just playing dead because literally his ability is to die and then come back to life and then die and then come back to life. He can do this every turn. And it's not like how other things, in theory, like if the stars align and you roll properly, he can come back to life every turn. He's kind of meant to die and to come back to life every turn. And if he comes back to life after he's activated, he kind of gets a second activation with 2 energy available. Like, he's hilarious. He's got an ability called Cunning Plan. The whole game is about capturing moonstones. And so he can place a moonstone within 2 inches of himself and then drop dead. And then the Mortician gets to bring him right back to life. It's hilarious. And he has an even better ability, the Bright Side of Death. So the Mortician can naturally resurrect anybody, but because of Joby, he gets Resurrect Joby for 0 energy. So it just automatically happens. These two, the spooky, scary Mortician and just the silliest little goblin named Joby, are the dream team. They're so much fun. I can't wait to play the goblins, trying to maximize like resurrecting characters. And that's the fun of Moonstone, is the rules are pretty darn simple and really tight and really nice. But then you've got these weird characters. These guys are so different than my fairies. My fairies have some really cool abilities too, but they feel very different. All fairies have an ability called Weakling, which means that it's harder for them to gather moonstones and it's harder for them to actually do melee damage because they're little Tinkerbells. They can't, like, imagine Tinkerbell punching you. It wouldn't do anything. But they have all these different magic abilities. There's one, the Belladonna has an ability where she can cast a spell, and if somebody casts a spell on her, she can try to make it go wrong, and if it goes wrong, then you turn the tables. All of a sudden, I am your character shooting whoever on your team I want to shoot. It's like mind control. But if I fail at it, then we just both die. That's great. That's so wickedly fun and silly and inventive. And that's what is really drawing me to this game right now. And it shouldn't be, because I am knee deep in preparing for a GT, a Warhammer 40,000 GT, but I'm just taking a little break, just a little tiny pit stop to get some Moonstone in before I get right back on the competitive 40K train. And speaking of competitive Warhammer 40K, I remember thinking after the Nova Open reveals that there's nothing coming out for the rest of the year, and then there's no Space Marine releases in at least the first quarter of next year. So my Black Templar are pretty safe. I was a little nervous that they were gonna show off Black Templar, and then I was gonna have to rewrite my list, and I just spent months playtesting and getting my tournament list ready to rock and roll, but I am safe. This list is gonna happen in October. I'm gonna win the entire event, even though I've played about 60 or 70 games of Warhammer 40K and I've won maybe 6 games. I think that sounds about right. I've won maybe 6 games. Thanks for watching.